What is going on, everybody? So today we are talking about Caridina shrimp. We haven't talked about shrimp in a little while. I've done a lot with Caridina shrimp. We import thousands of these guys every single month. So we have a lot of experience with them. We got tons of breeding going on. We got 96 tanks behind me. And I want to give you guys 5 of my biggest tips for being successful with keeping and breeding Caridina shrimp. So that is what we're talking about today. So let's jump right into the video. All right, guys, so my first and most important tip, it's gonna sound super basic, but the most important thing you need for keeping Caridina shrimp, at least most Caridina shrimp, the first thing you need to know really is that they need a pH of less than 7. So they need soft water. And so we'll talk about water chemistry in a different tip, but the first thing is, if you look in this tank, we have Brightwell shrimp soil. So Brightwell is a sponsor of our channel, full transparency, but we've used their substrate for about, I want to say 8 years now. It's phenomenal. It's great stuff. And that is the first key to success with keeping Caridina shrimp. You need an active substrate, and the active substrate we recommend, Brightwell shrimp soil. It will lower your pH to about, I don't know, anywhere between 5 to 6.5, just depending on what the batch is. But that's going to be perfect for you breeding and keeping Caridina shrimp. So tip number 2 comes down to this. Now, this looks super intimidating. It's kind of crazy looking, a lot of stuff going on. So you don't need something like this, but what this is an RODI water filtration system. So we're turning our tap water into RO water, which basically strips it of all the nutrients so that we can remake it the way we want the water. And so we have 3 275-gallon totes here that have RO water in it, and then we actually remineralize these. And I know that when you hear the word remineralize and RO water, distilled water, it seems a little scary, but I promise you it's super easy. So I'm going to take you through like a short little crash course of how you can do something super simple in your aquarium. All right, so here's what we are doing to make your guys' life so easy. So for the longest time, for literally the past 10 years, I've been importing remineralizer from Germany, and it's just super expensive. And there's a lot that goes into it. So we actually developed our own remineralizer. It's called Shrimple, and this one's Shrimply GH. So for Caridina shrimp, you're gonna only want to use GH to remineralize your water. So the easiest thing you can do is go to your store, any grocery store, something like that, has just normal distilled water, which is 1 gallon. So you're gonna get a couple of those, dump them into a 5-gallon bucket, and this is 1 pump per 10 gallons. So 1 pump into a 5-gallon bucket will increase your GH to 2. Now, if you have 10 gallons, it will increase to 1. So 5-gallon bucket, that's the easiest way to do it. It will increase it by 2 degrees hardness. For Taiwan bees, like blue bolts, things like that, you want to get a GH of like 6, 8 at the most. But for anything that's like crystal reds, tangerine tigers, galaxies, you can literally go up to 10, 12 GH. You can get it nice and hard for them. Even though they like soft water, you can get it nice and hard. And this is a super easy product that we use here at flipaquatics. And we promise you, this is going to make your life shrimpable. So tip number 3 is going to be about stocking. So this is a 20-gallon long. We currently have about 300 shrimp in here. Now, I don't recommend you keeping 300 shrimp in your tank, but what I will say, after talking with Nico this past weekend on Get Equipped with Flip, I learned a lot. And what he said is having a group of like 50 breeding shrimp in a tank this size is the ideal amount to get the optimal amount of babies. So 50 shrimp in about a tank this size, which is 20 gallons. His tanks are about 15 gallons, so you could stock this a little bit more. And the other thing that he made super interesting, or was super interesting to me, was that he does 1 male to 8 females. So it's a 1 to 8 ratio. And so that's just about like the overall stocking of the tank. Anything more than that, like if you have 1 male for every 4 females, you can actually stress the females out. They'll drop the eggs early, things like that. So 1 to 8 ratio male to female, and the stocking of about 50 shrimp in a 15 to 20 gallon tank is going to be ideal for breeding shrimp. So next up, my 4th tip, and this one's really important, is it's all about filtration. So the thing that we use here at flipaquatics, and you'll see in like literally every single one of our tanks, we're using a man filter. And that's not because like, you know, we sell man filters and we're trying to push the sale of them. We sell man filters because first we use man filters. And so man filters are literally a solid piece of foam that takes up a whole side of the aquarium, and it's got just a PVC pipe that goes over the top, and it just moves water from one side to the other, and it filters it. And why these are so great, now granted they're a little ugly, so if you're looking for like a display aquarium, maybe this isn't the best option for you, but if you're looking for breeding, I'm going to say this is your best option, because what this does is it creates a huge amount of surface area, and your babies are going to love that, your shrimp are going to love it, your adults, everything. And this is just creating the perfect environment for you to breed. And so I would highly recommend doing a filter like this. If you don't do this one, you could do like a normal sponge filter, but you're not getting the surface area. And these things, you don't need to clean them very often. We only clean them about once a year, maybe once every 2 years. And so like they do last a long time. Now, if you have fish and stuff like that, then your bio load is going to be a little bit higher. Maybe you have to clean them a little bit more. But huge recommendation, mat filters. Tip number 4. Let's go to tip number 5. So tip number 5 would definitely be the fact of using plants in your aquarium. Now, the reason I say using plants is because plants are going to do a couple things. First of all, floating plants, super beneficial. We don't use them as much in here because we're constantly catching out of these tanks. But for a breeding tank, what floating plants do, like in this tank, this is one of our actual breeding tanks, reduces evaporation, which reduces changes in parameters. It eats up nitrates like crazy, which are NO3, which is the last stage of the nitrogen cycle. And so that's going to keep your tank super healthy. And then also using something like Subwasser Tang or Java Moss, those are going to provide tons of surface area, places for your shrimp to hide, for them to graze, shrimplets to hide, adults that just molted to hide and not be bullied. And so that's really going to give you the optimal environment for shrimp to really breed and be successful. And it just looks good. So I highly recommend using plants in all tanks, just for the simple fact that they're going to keep the water quality good and they're going to make your shrimp feel more at home. Okay, so I couldn't just give you guys 5 tips. We got to sneak a 6th one in there. And this one's just a little bonus tip. And I might make this like actually like 6 and 7, just because, you know, there's just so much to know. Number 6 would be the fact of not using heaters in your tank. So all these shrimp prefer a temperature of 68 degrees. 68 is like money. Like that's where you want to be. Having a heater is just going to create this instability of temperature swings, which is going to cause molting. And so like I highly recommend not using a heater. Now, granted, if you're keeping these shrimp outdoors and it's 32 degrees, you know, you got to do something. But most people have these in their basement. They have them in a bedroom. The temperature of the room is going to be plenty fine for these guys. So that would be my extra piece of advice. And then if I'm going to give you another one, number 7, I would say patience is key. You can't rush things. Like these are living animals. They kind of operate at their own time clock, when they want to breed, when they don't want to breed, whether they're happy, whether they're not. And so patience is everything. And so those are my 2 extra pieces of advice. I hope you guys learned something from today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you so much. You guys make it a great rest of your week. As always, God bless. We'll catch you on the flip side.